Welcome back into another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. A little bit of a lower recording, a little lower quality episode here. I am on the road at my in-laws' house, so my studio setup is not with me. So I've got my throwback blue snowball mic, as you can see on YouTube. But this is a throwback to a simpler time with the snowball. But as we had earlier this week, James Foster, No Flags Film on X, is back with us here to talk corners again, as Dalton is still moving back from Portugal. James, the first episode of this series was electric, so I'm hoping for a good sequel here with these last five names of this cornerback class we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, I'm pumped to get into it. It's been pretty much my perfect Thursday. Just listen to the Clips album about like 10 times. Watching.
Oh, dude, FICO is unreal. That's
unreal. Like literally 2 minutes before I got on this link, that's what I was listening to. FICO.
It's so
no skips,
none at all. Okay, let's dive in. Where do you want to start here? So we've got five corners here, three of which play in the SEC. One of which from those SEC schools, I think we're bullish on. Where do you want to start here?
Yeah, I mean, Will Lee or Dalen Everett, either of those guys.
All right, let's start with Will Lee. I can start with Will Lee. I came away a little torn on Will Lee. What I really love about Will Lee, he's like that. Will Lee is like that. Like, he wants all the smoke. He talks the talk, but he'll walk the walk. Like the Texas game, Isaiah Bond wanted nothing to do.
They were not – Bond and Golden were not ready to match his, competitive edge at all.
No, he was punching them in the mouth. Like, there's one rep where Isaiah Bond just doesn't even get off the line of scrimmage.
I'm so glad you brought that rep up because that was the first thing I was going to mention. Yeah,
third down. He just gives up. Like 2 seconds into the rep, he's like, "All right, I'm not even getting."
And Ewers goes to him on the backside. He's like, "Oh, he's getting jammed back to Alabama."
And I think it's Jonte Cook on the other. There's another route too where he just jams the hell out of a receiver. And I think it was Jonte Cook. Who, where is he even at now? I know he was at Washington, but now he's not at Washington anymore. Maybe Arizona. And Jonte Cook the same thing.
There's a new Hayes Fawcett update about him like every week, it seems like.
Yeah. Where Jonte Cook, I think it was Jonte Cook, at the top of the route, like Willie just punches him in the mouth and he knocks him over at the top of the route. But he is like that. And so that's what I really appreciate about Willie. I question the athletic upside there, though. Like, I don't know if you have those same thoughts. Like, I think he's a strainer vertically. Like, when he's pushing vertically, like he's a pretty big strainer. And I see it a lot when he gets beat off the line because I think his press tech is really good, but there are reps where you see that he really wants to throw hands right away and he gets out in front of his feet a little bit and then is caught in recovery mode. And I don't see that recoverability to get back in phase with Will Lee. And I kind of see it in off man as well, because I think, again, his catch tech is really good. Like, he's going to stand his ground at the top of routes and he's going to throw hands when you get to the top of routes. And he's going to let you step on his toes. But I think he does that because he knows he has to kind of get hands on guys because he can get ran. Like Theo Weiss, Missouri game kind of gets him a couple times. Matthew Golden got him once in the Texas game. I see it vertically that I question what's the juice level there. What do you think? What do you see with Will Lee?
So I love Will Lee. I actually came away I was really high on him heading into this, but I ended up watching a few games that I hadn't seen and rewatching some of the tape because I had studied him during the season. I actually came away higher on Will Lee than I was originally, and moved him up to cornerback 3 just ahead of Xavier Scott. So I think I kind of see what you're talking about with the ability, how quickly does he reach top gear when he's transitioning from press? But I actually think his straight line athleticism is borderline elite, especially at his size. So I mean, he was listed at 6'3". The actual NFS verified measurements are just under 6'1", which I would take that height over a 6'3" corner. Schools always lie about their heights, but 6'1" is more than enough. 93rd percentile wingspan. And, when you're going up against Will Lee as a receiver, you're not just going up against him, you're going up against him and the sideline, because he's going to drive you to it if you try to release outside. His tracking data is kind of insane. His top speed was 99th percentile for defensive backs last year, 87th percentile average top speed. And yeah, I mean, I think I share your concerns a little bit as far as like he's not as great like turning the ball, and he's sometimes can kind of get a step behind down the sideline. But especially like there's a rep, he had a pass breakup against Notre Dame where you see his ability to drive from off coverage, and like he eats up cushion in a hurry. The physical tone setting demeanor, I'm with you. Texas game was absolutely dominant just from a physicality standpoint. I think I guess my biggest issue with him. So when I watch corners, like I'll start out, usually the first thing I watch is their interceptions, their pass breakups. I watch all of their man coverage reps, and then I get into like individual games. And when I just watch Willie's man coverage reps, like I was, I had to kind of talk myself out of giving him a really irresponsibly high grade. My biggest issue is decelerating with stop routes, and then some missed tackles on his tape that I saw. But yeah, I think he's got first round traits all the way. Just love the size, length, speed combination.
Yeah, I also have in my notes, once he gears all the way up, so once he hits that third gear, he's got a little issue coming back down from that as well. I think the short area quickness is great, but like the top end fluidity is a question mark there. There was one more thing I wanted to bring. Oh, zone coverage. We didn't talk a lot about zone. I think his zone eyes are tremendous. I think his feel for zone is tremendous as well. One of the few corners, like there isn't any hesitation in pass offs. There isn't any hesitation when he needs to turn and get his eyes to a backside post.
Right.
Everything is very like symmetrical. Like a lot of times you'll see guys kind of chop their feet and then turn their eyes. Like it's like this is my 1, this is my 2, this is my 3. Kind of like quarterbacks. Like I hate robotic quarterbacks who's like, you can see them working through the progressions rather than like a natural feel for like where they're getting their eyes. It's kind of the same with corners in the zone. Like Will Lee seamlessly peels off to backside post. He seamlessly sees guys coming in underneath the vision, buzz looks, and he flips his hips and he gets to that. So I think his feel for peripherals, his IQ and zone is really high as well. I was talking to a scout, and the scout's like, I actually kind of think that he could play safety at the next level as well. So, but yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about Will Lee there. Let's move on to Dalen Everett. I'll let you start on Dalen Everett here. So what do you got on Dalen Everett?
So Dalen Everett's another guy that I had kind of evaluated during the regular season. I think probably watched 4 or 5 games, but finished up the rest of his tape, and I moved him from mid to late day 3 to a guy that's like, I think right on the precipice of a day 2 grade. I've got him as CB6 right now behind Avion Terrell, and it had his 2 best games of the season, I think clearly in the playoffs to end the season. The problem with Dalen Everett is that he only shows up in the biggest games in the biggest moments, like SEC championship on 3rd down. That's when he's going to make a play. Some of the interceptions like that Texas performance, the second one, he had an interception. I think it might've been against Isaiah Bond. I was watching, like Isaiah Bond was kind of getting did by some of these corners that I was watching, honestly. But yeah, really my biggest concern with Dalen Everett is just the top end gear. Cause I feel like he gets stacked down the sideline, pretty easily, but I think he's a really smooth, balanced, press corner, puts up way more of a resistance to inside releases than a lot of the corners in this class. It's easy to find college corners that are like dominant against outside releases, but a lot of times those guys can kind of get driven off of home base by a release fake, and then they're letting the receiver cross their face. Dalen Everett, I think, does a really good job of, being a physical presence at the line of scrimmage, putting up a barrier and rerouting consistently without overextending and getting out over his toes. I think there are flashes of really good eye discipline to read the receiver's hips. And I think just a really good balance of finesse, precision, and physicality. But we mentioned earlier, like turning and playing the ball is his biggest issue, which, like you said, is kind of a common theme with Georgia corners. It seems like
Tyson Campbell, Keely Ringo,
exactly.
like, yeah, those guys, the same kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, I was talking to someone like Tyson Campbell's one of the only college corners I can remember who is just terrible at finding the ball in college. And then when they got to the NFL, like that became one of the best parts of their game. Like I actually think he really improved on that in the league. But yeah, finding the ball, top end gear, like I said, I start with man coverage because that's really the most important. And I was pretty impressed with Dalen Everett in that phase. But then when I got into the full games, there's a lot of like coverage busts in the red zone, switch releases and like delayed kind of trick play stuff can give him trouble. And then when he does get beat man to man, he has a bad habit of taking reckless pursuit angles like downhill to try to recover, and ends up turning some first downs into explosive plays. So yeah, I like Dalen Everett. If he gets a little bit more consistent, I think I could definitely see him as like a mid third rounder. But I got an early fourth on him right now.
Yeah, let's see how he does again, year 2 in a Georgia defense as a starter. That can always do wonders for a player as well. All right, man. Let's talk about the last SEC guy here, Domani Jackson from Alabama. Man, I left watching him so pissed off that I took the time to watch him. Almost, man. Like I thought he was really high hipped. I didn't think he changed directions. He's very much a strainer vertically, and it almost looks like uncomfortable for him when he has to turn and run. Like he's got a broken hip. Like it looks painful for him to turn and run. I think what I was most disappointed with Domani Jackson is like when he's deconstructing blocks, I saw physical hands. Like I saw the ability there where like he's got a pretty strong punch, but the consistent effort level in the run game is one of the worst I've ever seen. I think and that's not a position where guys just bite ankles anyway. Like,
game?
He's not even doing that,
Yeah.
So I really struggle with Domani Jackson. And then I think his feet and press are slow. Like his foot speed is suboptimal. I think his hands are all over the place, man. I don't know what there is to start with Domani Jackson. Like what's the starting place there outside of the amount of stars next to his name coming out of high school?
Yeah. You put him on the list. And so I kind of went into it with an open mind because I was like, oh, maybe Corey watched him and really likes him. Because I'd watched him, for the kind of the first half of last year before I realized he wasn't going to be in the class. But I just really didn't see a whole lot there outside of him being tall and like sometimes he can get going pretty fast. Like I think he has a decent top speed. To me, he's not really a guy in this class that is worth paying attention to. And I don't think we'd be talking about him if he wasn't a former 5-star.
Tend to agree there. All right. Rounding out the last 2 corners here. Let's start with Florida State corner, Jeremiah Wilson. Played Syracuse to Houston, now to Florida State. He was one of the guys that you wanted to add to the list, man. And I'm glad that you did because I really like Jeremiah Wilson. But you brought him to the list, so I'll let you start. I don't want to ruin your scouting report here. So you start with Jeremiah Wilson. I'll kind of fill in the cracks from there.
Yeah, well, it's 3 years in a row that I've really liked a Florida State corner. I was a big Renardo Green and Azareye'h Thomas fan.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Wilson is kind of cut from a different cloth than those guys, and I think he's a good kind of foreshadowing for how different Florida State's defensive scheme is probably going to be. I was talking to Clay Fink, who covers Florida State for 247 Sports. It's going to be much more like an off quarters type of system, as opposed to the last few years where you kind of knew going into a Florida State corner that it was just going to be press man every snap pretty much. Mm-hmm. And that's not Jeremiah Wilson's game. Going to be like right on the border of 30-inch arms, listed at 5'10", 183 pounds. And I think he had 49 man coverage reps last year. And I would estimate like 15% of those he was actually on the line of scrimmage. So like press man is just not really a part of his game. But you see the fluidity, the explosiveness from off coverage, really, really fast. He had a pick six. I forget who it was against, but he reached a top speed that would have tied the Kevontae Turpin's top speed in the NFL last year, 22.4. Wow. So, yeah, I think Jeremiah Wilson has a lot going for him. Really, really fluid hips, and kind of a break from the traditional mold of Florida State corners.
Yeah, quick twitch is like what really stands out when you watch him. That quick twitch ability. I wish he finished his trigger more physical. Again, like he's listed at 5'10", 180, I think 185 is what he's listed at. I would doubt if he's 5'9", he's much over 5'9". Like it's very clear on the tape that he's a small dude. Even being so, I would like to see him be a little more physical at the point of attack in deconstructing blockers and trying to tackle. I think the trigger's there. You see him fly downhill, but then a lot of times I see him then just trying to establish outside contain, then and just funnel everything back in instead of kind of like working through contact, working to make the tackle. I don't know if you felt that way, the way that I do. But and then when it comes to deconstructing blockers, it almost felt like he was playing like almost playground tag with blockers to like try to like juke them out and try to work around them rather than just like deconstruct the block. So I do wish he was a little more physical there. I think sometimes he got a little overcommittal to double moves, to kind of fake screen and goes. Like he would bite on that. He very much wants to trigger onto and make plays. I mean, the Baylor game, he had 2 picks though. I mean, they were both lollipops from Sawyer Robinson.
Baylor, I have not watched Sawyer Robinson, but watching Jeremiah Wilson against Baylor, I'm like not interested.
Both of them
I'm not interested in getting into more of his tape.
Yeah. I do. That's interesting, the top end speed thing, because I saw a tendency for him to open his hips early.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost thought like, well, is he trying to compensate for something like a lack of long speed? But if he had that top end speed, then I don't think there's a lack of long speed there. But the hip timing then does come to question. I saw really explosive, really dynamic, really fluid speed turns, but he's speed turning with a good amount of space between him and receivers, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, so I think he's got to close that gap and be a little more
he's heavily reliant on his ability to speed turn and get his hips pointed wherever he needs to. So he's kind of loose with it a little bit.
Yep. And I thought his spacing from buzz looks was awesome too. So whenever he is playing some sort of cloud coverage, spacing in cover 2, even to flip his hips and get to the boundary, if he is splitting, a 2x2 look or a 3x1 look where he's got 2 guys kind of coming at him, really awesome there as well. So I ended up with like a 5th round grade on Jeremiah Wilson, but I think that's a dude who, again, his trigger's there. If he can be a little more willing to fit, I think he could play the nickel at the next level, and he could be a really good nickel at the next level. But nickels have to be physical. Like they have to be more physical than outside corners do, just because they're going to be asked to sling into some fits. And that's where I kind of wonder, like, is that there? But I came away really impressed with Jeremiah Wilson, left with the 5th round grade. And so I think that's easily a draftable player.
Yeah, I'm with you. I had a late 4th on him.
Yep. Awesome. Well, let's round this out then. And this is a player that has a lot of hype from the bigger analytics company that people tend to flock to their grades and rankings. But then you look at scouts grades and they all have late day 3 grades here. So
I just checked that.
Yeah. So let's take one last look here at this cornerback class, and let's round this out with Chandler Rivers from Duke. James, again, I'll let you take the lead here. What was your impression of Chandler Rivers, and which side of that spectrum do you fall?
Yeah, so he's 31 on PFF's board.
Yeah.
278 on Plesto's rankings.
Yes.
I was definitely kind of, I guess I'm a Chandler Rivers centrist a little bit. I had a almost identical grade on Rivers as I did Jeremiah Wilson.
Okay.
He's a very undersized player, like 5'8.5", 184 pounds, 29.5-inch arms. not ideal from a physical measurables perspective. And so the bar for his tape is really high going in. Like he's got to kind of blow me away. To me, it wasn't consistent enough for me to give him a day 2 grade or anything, but I do think he's a really like feisty, sticky press corner. Duke ranked 14th in man coverage rate. So like he's playing single coverage pretty much every snap. Seemed to trail like the opposing team's best receiver. And so he was on an island in a pretty exposed role and played really well last year. He has easy recovery speed. He is the number one thing that stood out to me about Chandler Rivers is his ability to backpedal from the line of scrimmage and kind of expand his cushion in press coverage without getting leaned back on his heels. Like a lot of times when guys try to pop step or retreat, it gets their weight moving backwards, but he's just like so balanced with a low center of gravity, and he can really gear up like while he's face guarding a receiver. So that's really impressive to me. He's not an overwhelming like physical barrier at the line of scrimmage. There are some times where he can kind of get bullied and trucked in press man, but he is like the word I kept writing was feisty. Like he does a good job of being a nuisance at the line of scrimmage. Great route ID from off man. Another player that uses the sideline to his advantage in press man coverage. To me, the biggest thing with Chandler Rivers was slant routes. Gave up a touchdown against Miami and Wake Forest in the games that I watched on a quick slant. Just really easy to cross his face with inside releases. And then I was hoping you had watched him because like there's this route. He got absolutely routed up by Jalen Lane on this kind of blaze out. Like he struggles with kind of sharp redirection and deceleration sometimes. But yeah, man, really solid corner. Also like the best pass rushing defensive back I've seen in like forever, which is crazy because he's so small, but he legitimately like has a bull rush, and he would get like strip sacks last year. It had a lot of production, like only 31 pass rushing snaps, but he turned that into 10 pressures, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. So kind of another just like weapon that he has at his disposal.
Yeah, so I was going to bring up in the limited stuff that I watched, what impressed me, and I just pulled up his data as well because I wanted to double check it. The dude makes tackles at or behind the line of scrimmage quite a bit as well. Like plays that result, like in 2013, 19 stop tackles, 2014, 15 stop tackles. Missed tackle rate's a little high, but and then also he's played 135 snaps from the slot, 200 snaps from the slot, 200 snaps from the slot. And then he is on pace to play 400 career special team snaps, assuming he plays the same amount of special teams that he's played the past 3 seasons as well. Like he is on pace to kind of be that, like that's how you make a roster at the NFL level. That's how you get drafted. And, same thing talking about Jeremiah Wilson, like Chandler Rivers is going to live in the slot, especially if he has those chops to kind of blitz off the edge like that, and or even green dog in situations where like his responsibility stays into block and pass protection, or he's not threatened and he kind of gets the free reign to make claim the quarterback. Like that's the kind of guy you want to stick your nose in fits if you run 75% nickel, which 30 teams do. Like that's just the way teams play these days. They play 75% nickel. So Chandler Rivers is going to find a home at 5'8", 29-inch arms. It's not going to be early, but he is a player that's going to find a home, and I think he's going to find a role. Like that's just the kind of player he is. So
I could see him being like kind of a if he didn't end up as a nickel, I could see him being like a Darius Williams type. Some of those quarters heavy teams have been able to make work on the outside. But yeah, like his snap alignment is basically just a direct reflection of wherever the opposing team's best receiver lined up. Because NC State, he was just trailing Concepcion. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's just following the other team's best guy.
All right, let's get out of here on this right here. We've talked about 10 corners over the past, and you've ranked way more than that. Let's go out here let's list our top 5 of the guys we've watched. I think our top 2 are consensus, like are the same here. McCoy, Abney.
Yep.
Yeah. Who is your CB3? I think I know the answer.
Willie.
Willie.
Yeah.
Okay. Willie came at CB5 for me.
Okay.
CB3 for me is Avion Terrell.
Okay.
As much as I want Avion Terrell to take like that cognitive step and that the traits are still outrageous. CB4, Xavier Scott for you, right?
CB4 Xavier Scott, yeah.
CB4 for me is DJ McKinney. So I have DJ McKinney right there at CB4, and then Willie at CB5. And CB5 for you is
Avion Terrell. So then would the rest, like the other 2 in my top 7 would be then Dalen Everett and DJ McKinney. So are those 2 guys in do we have the same top 7?
Top 7, then I would also have Dalen Everett, and DJ McKinney was 5, and then Xavier Scott. So yeah. Xavier Scott, then Dalen Everett. Yeah. So yeah.
Honestly, after I was initially really disappointed with this cornerback class because there's just a string of watching guys that were like ranked in the 20s on the consensus board that still can't get over Malik Muhammad being 27 on the consensus board. But like with my kind of updated opinion on Dalen Everett and then just growing confidence in Will Lee, like there's actually some decent upside here in this cornerback class. And like, I still think if Davison Igmanosin ever learns how to turn around at the catch point, like he's got a chance to be really good. So there's some upside here that I like.
Yeah, for sure. I wish there was like more top end, like first round, even like early second round talent outside of the 2 that we named there at the top that we have at the top. But again, there's traits to bet on for sure. James and I have already predetermined next week we're diving into tight ends, and just a little sneak preview. If you want a blocking tight end, if you are a tight end like old head, this is not the class for you.
Yeah.
If you're a tight end purist, not the class for you. This is the year of the F for sure. But there are a ton of fun F tight ends in this class, so I'm excited to get into that as well.
From my early exposure to the tight end class, I'm only like 4 or 5 deep. It's like everyone I watch, I'm like, man, Max Toscano on Twitter would hate this guy.
Yeah.
He does great work covering tight ends, but like he's done a really good job of hammering home like the importance of like what you need to be able to accomplish as a blocker. And there's a lot of guys in this class where you're almost just evaluating them as a slot receiver pretty much.
Yep. Indeed. But that's what we'll get into next week. But until then, this has been another James, do you have anything to add before I close this thing out?
Yeah, I would just say check out my latest YouTube video. It's a deep dive into the 2026 class. I just went 1 through 100 on my big board and broke down in depth pretty much like the top 70 guys, and then kind of hit on some other guys later down the board. So it's a really in-depth preview of the class.
That is some psycho shit. That is pathological, and I love it. So yeah, check that out. But until next time, this has been another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast.